Hi, this is Carol, and we have another episode of Cutting It Up with Carol. Today we are going to explore how to use our scan and cut to create quilt blocks. There are a number of quilt block designs that are built into the machine, and I'm going to show you how those work. So before we begin, I just wanted to mention two things. One is I have retired my fabric mat. It has just been used too much, and I have very little stick left on it. So I'm going to demote it to another purpose. At this point it would probably be good for some thinner papers and things that don't require too much tackiness. So I've retired him and I'm using a new fabric mat. The other thing is I was searching on Facebook this morning, and I was reminded that this is an excellent product to use on your scan and cut mats. It's LA's Total Awesome Oxygen, but it's a good product to use on your mats to kind of degrease it and get rid of some of the fibers and things that are on there, and then as well as using your wipes, and for really tough build-ups, definitely use your adhesive sponges, because that's really picks up a lot within those cut crevices. So just those two little tidbits. And so what we're doing today is we are going to work on something that very few people either know about or know how to do. So in your patterns, on the very last page, are quilt blocks that you can do. There's also this has additional motifs and borders. The little Sunbonnet Sue has some Dresden plates and other little flower motifs and things like that. But in this one that actually looks like the quilt blocks, you have 3, 6, 7 different menus of quilt blocks that you can use to aid you in being a more precise piecer and cutter. So we're just going to do this one right here. It's a two-tone, and it has enough variation in it that you'll get to see some different things, but I have my two fabrics here. So I am going to pick that. It's a 16 by 16 inch finished square. And once you hit the OK, I went too fast on that. Once you hit the OK, it's going to give you all of your pieces. And so you can start going through the sequence, and I'll show you how your machine actually allows you to do that. But let's just start with piece A, and you're going to hit OK. And it tells you piece A is a 4.5 inch square, and I'm going to set that. And then if you can see, it automatically puts on your mat on your screen the number of pieces you need to cut. So I need to cut 4 of these 4.5 inch squares, and so 4 popped up. So I don't have to do anything other than go ahead and scan and then go on to the next part. So in order to prepare my fabric, I am using my fabric mat because I'm using bare naked fabric. The only thing I have done is use a starch and pressed it, and I've made sure that my fabric is very securely on my mat, and I've loaded my mat, and I'm going to do the scan so that I know that my squares will actually be cut from my fabric. So I'm a little off on some parts and a little too close to the edge for comfort, so I'm going to go ahead and move these more into the center of my fabric. You don't want to be too close to your edge so that your blade catches. I'm going to move that down. Okay, so those are nicely centered on my fabric, and I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. So now this is the beauty of these machines. On each of the pieces that you need to cut for your quilt block, you will see two lines. One line is actually going to be your cut or your stitch line, and then the other outer more thick, dense black line is your cut line. So when you go into Please Select, you're going to go into Draw, and your machine is automatically going to draw that inner square. I need to change my, I can't say blade, but change my contraption in there. And each of you received in your, with your Scan and Cut, a pen holder. And the way you open it is there's just this little indentation here, a little latch that you're just going to press on and open up the lid. Then you were also given a water-soluble and an air-soluble pen. And I'm going to use the water-soluble one. The water-soluble one is the blue, the air is the purple. And just close that and then put it in just like you would your blade. So now I'm on Draw, but I don't want to draw on my good side of my fabric. So I'm actually going to reverse this, because what the line also provides you with a stitch line. So you actually have a line that you can follow as you're stitching. So it's really good for beginners, but it's also good for anyone if you just want to make sure that you get that perfect 1/4 inch line. It's a good way of testing your machine as to whether or not you're getting that good 1/4 inch seam. So I'm going to draw on the reverse back side of my fabric, and I'm going to go ahead and start. And you'll be able to see that it's drawing my stitch lines. So now you can see that all my stitch lines have been cut or drawn. I don't want to select the next part because that will take me out of the current pieces that I'm doing. I just want to say finish. So I'm finished drawing. And then it'll take me back to the squares that I've been doing. And now I'm going to go ahead and cut. So now I need to go back to my fabric blade and hit start. And just like that, you have 4 perfectly cut squares that have your stitching line already marked on them. So pretty slick, and they're perfectly uniform. So they're great for people who have trouble with cutting, which I am one of those. So let's go on. So now I am finished, or now I am ready to go on to the next part. So I'm going to hit select next part, and I'm going to select piece B and hit OK. Piece B is a 4.60 triangle, and I'm going to hit OK. And the pattern calls for 2 of those. So 2 automatically pop up. Alright, come on. The importance of not taking shortcuts. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and select draw, and I've got my pen in my holder, and I'm going to start. And I don't want to go on to the next part because I haven't finished this part yet, but I have finished drawing, so I'm going to say finish. Please select, Now I'm going to cut, and now I need to change to my fabric blade and hit start. And voila! We have our two perfect triangles. It also cuts off the corners, so you have blunt corners that you can match up. And so that is the process for cutting out the quilt pieces.